Welcome to GRE Snacks, snackable episodes about the GRE exam and graduate school admissions. I'm Tyler, founder of Achievable. Our affordable $199 GRE course includes everything you need to ace your GRE. A full textbook, tons of GRE questions backed by our memory-enhancing algorithm, and full-length practice exams. You can try it out for free at Achievable.me, and if you like it, the code podcast gets you 10% off at checkout. Also, if you have a question or topic you'd like us to discuss in a future episode, please contact me at tyler@achievable.me with the subject line podcast topic. Now, let's get started. So today on the show, really excited to have Matt Roy join us. Matt is actually Achievable's GRE author. So he's written the course material if you're using our course. And he's just a really knowledgeable person on all things GRE and in his own right. So Matt, do you want to give a little introduction to yourself here and then we can take it away?
Yeah, sure. So, as you just said, I did write the course for Achievable, but before that, I was an independent tutor, and I still am. And even before that, a few years earlier, I was a tutor for Kaplan. So, I have thought about the GRE much longer than, or much more than many people have. Many people probably want to think about the GRE as well.
Yeah. What? And your company is
GuideToGRE.com.
Got it. Okay.
And there you can find, obviously, Achievable's course and a lot of free materials for people who can't afford courses, and just many different resources. Like, for example, where you can find podcasts and where you can, get what types of apps are the best to study with and stuff like that. Very
cool. All right, GuideToGRE.com. Well, so for today's topic, we wanted to go into something that may seem obscure, but it's actually pretty important if you want to maximize your time on the GRE Quant, which is strategies for using the GRE Calculator. So take it away.
Yes. Okay, so the GRE Calculator is, first of all, not very complicated. So a lot of people are surprised when they open up or when they start the exam that they cannot do exponents there. And actually, you can't do much of anything.
Yeah, so maybe that's the first thing is like, what can you use it for and what not, right?
Yeah, there's just multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and square roots. Mm-hmm. That's it. There are many limitations that people don't notice, though, beyond that, that you won't notice unless you actually reach that point. So it maxes out at 8 digits. If the calculator gives you any answer beyond 8 digits, it won't even tell you. It can't tell you what it is. It just says error, actually.
Oh wow! Okay.
And there's also no scientific notation as well. So the test takers or the test writers actually know this, and they use it to their advantage to make problems harder. So, for example, if a problem asks for like the product of two very large numbers, they know for sure it would be beyond 8 digits. So it requires
like 20,245 times 4,000, like 965 or whatever.
Yes, exactly. The best way to approach that is to translate the 20,205, I think you said, to did you say 20,000?
Yeah, the exact number doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, okay. Right. Anyway, you would translate it to a smaller number, and you would tell yourself, this is in terms of thousands. So if it's like 20,000, you just put 20 point whatever, and then you multiply it by the other number. You don't change the other number, and you tell yourself the final answer is that many thousands.
Right.
That's how you get around it. It could be even bigger. Like, if there are giant numbers, the question might not even ask for the product of them. It might even ask for the units digit of the product.
Right.
And a little trick there is actually you only need to multiply the units digits by each other of any two large numbers to get the units digit of the product.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then when you are using the calculator, or I guess maybe the first part of this is just looking at a problem, what are the signs that, I mean, you've covered a couple where you're like, oh, I definitely can't use the calculator for this. And then what are the signs where you're like, oh, they probably do want me to use the calculator for this, and I should look for that?
Yeah, so a good example is a question that asks for like the 38th digit beyond the decimal point.
Wow.
Now, you regularly would think like, okay, obviously you can't use the calculator for this because it's only 8 digits, but doing that by hand would be really hard, finding whatever the 38th digit is. That would be a mess. So oftentimes those questions actually require just noticing a pattern within the decimal points. Noticing a pattern in the sequence beyond the decimal points. So if it's like 383838 repeating, and it asks for the 38th digit in that sequence, then obviously it would be 8 because every 8 is an even number in the sequence. So the 38 obviously,
right.
The 8 is the second, and then it would be the 4th, the 6th. Yeah.
Got it. So then what are some examples of GRE problems where the calculator is going to be used?
Oh yeah, I mean you could use the calculator in most everything. A lot of people say that you should try using the calculator as little as possible, and I get a lot of students that sadly say that they almost like reject the calculator because they've read online that using the calculator is like a waste of time or something. But to be honest, the calculator can prevent people from making mistakes, little mistakes, right? If you do things by hand too much, you're going to make mistakes eventually.
Right.
However, obviously it's very useful to know, for example, the exponent rules so you can simplify things. And only in the very end you use the calculator to test. You wouldn't want to put into the calculator 7 to the 6th power times 3 to the 12th power or something. Or 7 to the 6th. Yeah, you know what I mean. You can simplify that to like 21 to the... I don't remember my powers, what I just said. But, sorry.
I got the idea.
Simplify things.
You use power law and exponent rules to actually, essentially, like get people organized and get them and get the numbers to the point where you're maybe making like 1 or 2 calculations.
Yes.
And they're ones that are easy to do.
Yes, and the calculator's there for a reason. They gave you it there. They gave you the calculator for a reason. They're not trying to like waste your time with it. If you notice you're typing in everything, that's not a good thing. But you can use the calculator. You know, like for example, if a question asks, or if a question gives you a ratio or like a fraction, and you're having trouble simplifying the fraction. It may be easier to just put it into the calculator and then look at the multiple choice answers, put those into the calculator and see which one is the exact same decimal instead of simplifying. It really depends on the person though.
Yeah, so tell me more about that. That sounds like a good hack, right? So let's say, you're choosing between like 12 square root of 3, 3 square root of 3, 7 square root of 3 is like your answer choices.
Yeah.
Can the calculator help you get there if you're struggling? Or were you more thinking like if it was like a root 2 versus a root 3 kind of situation?
Well, yes, absolutely. Square roots. Roots can be like translated to like a decimal with a calculator, and you can definitely compare an answer that you find like the exact value to all of the answer choices, and you can put those into the calculator for sure. But in terms of like what you were saying earlier with a square, like with an exponent, that's like 12 times anything to the square root of, I don't know, or to any power is not as I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's not as difficult. But it's more, I guess the point is it's helpful when it comes to decimals.
Right.
And square roots obviously are going to often give you decimals if it's not a square.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then tell me about other strategies that you had in mind when you brought this topic here.
Yeah, so well, first I want to make a point about, it's not necessarily a strategy, but it's something that everyone should know. There's the transfer display button at the bottom of the GRE calculator. This button has a purpose, and that is to put whatever is in the calculator onto your answer choice. So many question types, or a few of the questions in a set of 20 will ask you to actually type out the answer. Just to save a little bit of time, if it's a very long number, And if you don't want to accidentally make a mistake, right, rewriting it, you can just click that transfer display button. So that's a good tip for people.
Mm-hmm.
I will just say one thing about that, though. Be wary of questions that ask you to type in the answer. Very often, those questions you need to round to some decimal, and if you do click the transfer display, it won't round for you, so you would have to round it after.
Got it. Okay, yeah. That's a good thing to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of those questions will say things like, give me to the nearest percentage point, like which percentage, right? Mm-hmm. Which percentage? What is it? I think it was a video that you did a while back where it was like, what percent of John's salary is Amy's salary?
Yeah.
Right. So if you punch it in from the calculator, you need to round that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And another thing about the calculator that most people do not know, if you find it really annoying to use the mouse and to click on all the numbers and click on all the operations, you should know that you don't have to do that. You can type onto your keyboard every operation that you want, and some people are much more comfortable with that because maybe they even do that in their work. So you can save a lot of time with that for sure. When
you say keyboard, do you mean like the number pad, or do you mean you can use the other?
Well, it depends on the test center.
Yeah.
If the test center doesn't have a number pad, it wouldn't work. But if you do it at home, I imagine your number pad will work if you do that at home test. I will also say that you can practice this though. You can practice this if you want with the 2 free power prep tests that you get with signing up for the exam. It'll be the exact same interface as test day. So.
Yeah, and that'll help you get familiar with it, I think, before the test starts, is just by doing at least one of those power prep tests. And just in general, I mean, as a broader note, you should probably try to do all 5 of your power prep tests if you can. Not everybody can afford all of them, but definitely do at least the 2. Yeah, for sure.
It's required.
Yeah, required curriculum.
Yeah.
Any other tips for the calculator?
I don't think I have any more.
Yeah, then that sounds great.
I don't think I have any more. Do you have any more questions about it? Maybe I can.
No, I think that's good. I think the biggest thing that I was trying to figure out is, if your answer choices are like 12 root 2 versus 12 root 3, like you said, can you use like the decimal point to try and figure it out? But because you're multiplying it, maybe not. Well, maybe.
Yeah, you can. You can. This is a great question because a lot of people, they put the 12 in for, and then they're like, okay, do I do radical 3 now or 3 radical? You definitely need to get used to the GRE calculator. It won't do order of operations for you. So what I always do is you solve for the square root of 3 first, and then you just multiply that by 12. You always do the radical stuff first, so that the calculator doesn't get confused what's going on. So because you don't want 12 times 3, which is 36, and you don't want the square root of 36.
Yeah, that's not the answer.
Yeah. But this is actually great because like in quant comparison questions, they might have something like 4 times the square root of 3 for quantity A, and then quantity B 3 times the square root of 4. And it might intuitively seem hard to determine which one would be larger. So you can just put them in the calculator, and then whatever number is larger is just going to be the right answer. And so yes, the calculator is not always bad, but if you find yourself clicking on it like all the time, then maybe you should learn a few more tricks though.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. This has been GRE Snacks, hosted by Tyler from Achievable. You can try out the GRE course that we wrote with Matt for free at achievable.me, and you can use the code podcast to get 10% off at checkout.